money you already had could work harder for you and your family without relying on the stock market or someone else's promises. Hey, I'm Kristyn. I'm an authorized infinite banking practitioner, and I help Canadian families and business owners reclaim control over their money so they can fund their dreams with confidence and faith-led abundance. So today I want to talk a little bit about the mindset shift that has to happen in order to unlock real financial freedom, and how the infinite banking concept is not just a strategy, but it's a way of thinking and living. So what's holding you back from the life that you really want? I want you to start thinking about the way you think about yourself. How do you identify? Now, some of you might be thinking pronouns and all these different things. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you as a person. How do you identify? How do you describe yourself? What's your biggest identifier? Is it that maybe you have ADHD? Maybe it's that you have a physical ailment. Maybe it's that you're broke. Maybe it's that you're just a mom. How do you identify yourself when you're talking to yourself, when you're thinking about who you are at your core? So I want you to take a minute and write down all of the things that you are thinking about yourself. All of the things that are contributing factors to why you're at where you're at today. Is it because you're an overcomer, or are you someone who is a victim and things just happen to? You're a victim of all of your circumstances. Everyone else is out to get you. I want you to just sit down and really start thinking about this, because what I can tell you after the probably hundreds of calls that I've been on over the last few months, when I'm sitting down with someone, I can usually tell in the first 10, 15 minutes if this person's going to be a good fit for this concept. The way that I can tell is they are someone who's a good fit, is someone who is an overcomer. They're someone who takes control over things, and they understand that they are the only one that can save them from whatever their reality is. They're not waiting around for something to change. They're not waiting for that stock to go through the roof, or they're not waiting for interest rates to change. That person is someone who has already done the work to put things in their life so that they're in control. Okay, we all talk about wanting to do infinite banking because we want to be in control. And a lot of us don't think too much about what that actually means. So if you want to be in control, that means you have radical responsibility to yourself. When you're using the infinite banking concept and you're taking out policy loans, nobody's coming after you to repay those loans. That means that you have to be the person that's disciplined, and you're going to repay your own system when you're borrowing from it, right? You have to be someone who is able to think long term, and you want to be able to put future needs ahead of today's. So in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, Nash talks about how we have to overcome Parkinsons Law, which is that the time it takes to do something expands to the amount of time that we're given, right? If you're given a task to do, the amount of time that it takes you to finish that task. If you're given a week, you can finish it in a week. If you're given a month, you can finish that task in a month. What he talks about is with money. Now, in terms of money, think about your own life. A luxury enjoyed becomes a necessity. I want you to think about this. How many of us, myself included, once you have had power windows in your car, guess what? You're never going to own a car without power windows. I'm spoiled. I have a sunroof. I will never have a car without a sunroof. That is now a necessity to me. That's something that I really, really enjoy, and that's something that's high on my priority list. So in order for us to overcome the Parkinson's Law, we really have to take radical control and radical responsibility over our money, because the more cash you have, the easier it is to spend, right? The more we could be spending on all of these big, grand things. And so Nelson talks a lot about the human condition and how we have to tame ourselves first, and we have to have this control over ourselves and our own urges to start enjoying all of these major luxuries. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with luxuries. What I'm saying is that we have to think long range, and we have to think about the consequences of every action that we take. Now, going back to my conversations with potential clients, when I get on these calls and I have someone coming in that's telling me, oh yeah, we're so broke because of the market crash, because such and such lost their job a couple years ago and we haven't been able to find anything. Or, we have so much debt, but it's not our fault. We've had all these things go wrong. Everyone has things go wrong. Okay. I can tell you right away that those people that have all of these issues, that it's always someone else's fault, they need to take control of that first. They need to understand that even if there's outside forces working against them, you still have that control for how you react to it. You still have control. If you're really heavily in debt, you have the control to cut up those credit cards and stop using them. You have the control to stop paying on subscriptions that you don't need, right? There are a lot of things that we know we should do, but we choose not to do. So we really, really have to take an introspective look at ourselves and think about how we are handling money in our own lives, and how we are, not just our money, but everything that we are given under our care, how we're supporting that, how we're stewarding it, right? Because we want to be good stewards of the things that we're blessed with. So what really separates the people from the ones that this really isn't a great fit for right now, and the ones that are going to just, I set them up and they just take off with it and they go running, are the people that are really, really go-getters. They're the ones that want to understand the concept, they want to understand how it works, and they start putting more and more of their time and their efforts into learning how this works. So if you've been with me a while, you know that I talk a lot about mindset, and not in a woo-woo fuzzy kind of way. I'm talking about the way that your thoughts become things. The things that you focus on are the things that become realities in your life. And I'm not talking about manifesting things. I'm just talking about the way that we notice things and the way that we focus on things, changing our behavior and the way that we live our lives according to how we are constantly thinking. So let me give you an example. If you believe that you are a victim of your circumstances, you are a victim of everything that has ever happened to you in your life, you're waiting for someone to come and save you, you are never going to step up and you're never going to get ahead, because you're constantly going to be stuck in that cycle of lack and waiting for something else to go wrong. And you're going to be just waiting and waiting and waiting for someone else to come in and save you. Now, I've spoken with a ton of people, especially over the last few months, that are more and more looking for ways that they can take more control over their lives and help themselves and their families rise above the craziness of the world around us and take control over what we can. Now, occasionally I get on a call with someone and they have this almost like blinders on, where all they see is all the bad things that are happening. And their mentality is, there's nothing we can do about it. They're asking me for help, but they're not looking to make any changes in their lives. Everything that I suggest is they're combative, and they are saying, no, I can't possibly do that because this is too expensive and that's too expensive. And these people come in and they have this mentality that everyone else is the problem, and they're also waiting for someone else to come in and save them. If you're someone that's thinking that the government's going to come in and save you, oh, we just need to get a new person in power and everything's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, I'm sorry, but you're not the kind of person who's going to be able to make this work. When we talk about the mindset that you must have going into infinite banking, it's the mindset of control. You need to understand that you are ultimately in control of what happens with you and your family. So you are in control of where your dollars go. You are in control of the way that you're spending your money. You're in control of where they go first. You're in control of that flow of money. So until you can understand that and understand that you are the person who's radically in control, this is not a solution that's going to help you. So if you're waiting for the government to come in and save you, or you're waiting for your cryptocurrency to go through the roof, and then you will start living your life, and then you'll be able to plan for retirement. If you're constantly waiting for something else to come along, you're going to be constantly disappointed. The reason that the infinite banking concept works and why it works so well is because the people that are drawn into it are the ones that want to take control. They want that radical responsibility that comes with taking control of their own money. So they're not waiting for someone else or something to shift in the markets or some outside source to come in and save them and to make a difference in their life. If you're doing that, you're outsourcing your control. However, if you believe that you can design a system that preserves your capital and it funds your growth inside of itself, if you believe that you can take back your sovereignty, that's what you're here to do. Now, your beliefs about risk and money and stewardship drive the choices in your life. So they drive where you put your money, how you protect it, how you're spending it, how you're teaching your kids about money and how they're going to use it as well. So you want to make sure that these things that you're setting in place in your life are things that you are driving and not outside forces that are driving you. So we're not looking to external rate of return. We're not looking to what's happening with interest rates. Should I put my cash in the GIC? Should I put my cash here? Should I borrow for my mortgage? What's the interest rates doing? All of those things, they don't matter. When you are taking control of your own financial future and when your family has their own banking system and our own firm foundation that is within this realm, all of your decisions kind of flow with that. So again, you just want to look at what you are doing and make sure that it's aligning with your personal convictions, what your values are, and where you want to feel good about where your money is going. So I challenge you right now, take out a pen and I want you to write down 3 beliefs that you currently hold about money and your financial risk. Just the first couple things that come to your mind. So maybe you feel a tightness, you feel like money is bad. Maybe it's that you feel that money is abundance and it just comes easily to you. Maybe you're thinking about how you can save more inside of your own family system. Whatever it is, I want you to write them down. And then I want you to note which of these beliefs that you have written down, how are they empowering to you? And which ones are giving away the control to someone else? Take a few minutes, mull that over, and start looking at that list and see what you're willing to challenge and see what you're willing to change. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about how the infinite banking concept works. I have a lot of other videos that go into that in detail. But in a nutshell, when we are using the infinite banking concept, it is not an investment. It's not about getting a rate of return. It's using an insurance policy that you own and control. It's a private contract. And you use this to become your own banker. We use this by depositing cash into our policies. Then we use the policy as leverage and we borrow against it to finance the things that we need. We repay those loans back into our own system, and we're going to repay ourselves the interest that we would have otherwise paid to a bank or to some other outside source. The more cash we keep inside of our system, the more it grows. And the more it grows, the more we can expand our system to encompass other people and other policies on them. Now, here's why the mindset matters, because anyone can set up a policy for infinite banking. That does not make you an infinite banker. Infinite banking is the process of how you're using money. If you have a life insurance policy, you just own a life insurance policy. That is not the same as infinite banking. So when we're talking about infinite banking, we're talking about the process and the movement of your cash and how that works in your day-to-day life. If you're just putting cash into a policy and you're going to plan to use it to retire later on, that's amazing, that's awesome, but that's not infinite banking. Infinite banking is the process of using that cash through your life. And before you come at me and say, but Kristyn, I pay cash for everything, I'm going to do a whole separate video on that, my friend, because when you pay cash, you're losing the ability to earn on that cash every day for the rest of your life. I'm going to stop there on the infinite banking concept, but ultimately, the driving force of how this works for you is going to be how much you embrace the process as opposed to just having a product that you're sitting on. So the first shift that we really have to talk about when we are thinking about our mindset when it comes to money is that you have to shift from relying on someone else. Okay. We're just taught from a very, very young age that we're not responsible with our money. We can't be trusted to even keep our money on hand. We're taught that we have to put it into a banking system and the bank will take good care of it for us. And when we want to borrow money, we have to go to a banking system. We have to borrow that money out. So I want you to think for a second, if you didn't have that external bank, what if that was not an issue? What if you didn't have to worry about what interest rates were doing? What if you never had to worry about even having a credit score? Because when you need it, your loans are guaranteed. They're there. You just take them as you like. Imagine the peace that you would feel if that was your day-to-day living. If you had all these loans that you have outstanding, think about every credit product that you own. Imagine if you didn't get a bill every month for those products. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what the radical self-control looks like. Okay, when we take control of that, we're in control of the repayment schedule. When I take out policy loans, I don't get a monthly statement telling me how much I owe. I know how much I owe. It's up to me to figure out when I'm going to pay it back. Of course, I'm going to be an honest banker. I have a lot of love for my family. And when I'm putting cash back into my system, I know that it's going to benefit my family. And I have a lot more love and respect for my family than I do for a big bank down the street. I want that money to come back into my family's system. So I'm going to be an honest banker. I'm going to repay the loans that I take out. But I don't have anyone over my shoulder constantly reminding me of these loans and constantly reminding me and asking me for more and more money to pay them back. I pay them back because that's just how my finances flow. I deposit money, I take out loans, and I pay them back. Now, the second shift we have to talk about is going from really short-term thinking, which is, again, what we're taught. We're just told to look at the rate of return, what is the interest rate, what is the quick return for me, what's going to be the cheapest option to do right now today, and we don't look farther down the line to see how those decisions affect us over the long term. So the second mindset shift that we have to look at is looking at long-term stable growth over short-term really big growth. I'm not saying things like that can't be good, but you want to work on a firm foundation where you get stable growth over the really risky things that you can think about your crypto, for example, that is going up and down and up and down and way up and way down. We want a stable foundation so that when we do decide to invest in those riskier things, that we have this stable foundation that we can rely on, and then we're making that risk with the money that we know that we can risk. So when we're looking at having an infinite banking system, it's really important that we look at how it's going to grow over time. And to be honest, the easiest way to do this is to do it slowly. So we know that a policy is going to grow slowly and steadily. And as that happens, your confidence in the system is going to grow with it. That's the point when we want to start expanding your system. So for most people, I don't suggest starting out super, super big. I'd rather see you start out at a comfortable level and we slowly get confident, and then we add on to our system from there. Now, another thing that we really have to shift with the way that we think is the fear of loss. So how many of us, when we get cash in our hands, and this was me for many, many, many years, when payday came, we wanted to hold on to that money so tight because we were afraid that it was all going to go away. How many of you do that, right? When you get a windfall or you have cash come into your life, you want to hold on to it really, really tight. Now, when we have a system that's in place that allows us to grow our cash and allows us to grow our capital, that is very safe and we know that it's guaranteed to grow, that's when we move from that fear into preparedness. And so we go into the realm of knowing what's going to happen. And then we're not afraid to put cash into it. We're not afraid to capitalize our system because we know what's going to happen with it. So we can move from that fear of the unknown and the fear of, if I put all of my cash onto this credit card, for example, it's gone, and what happens if I need it for something else tomorrow? We can let go of that fear because when we're putting cash into our own system, we know that it's going to grow. When we have these policies in place, we know that we're managing the risk And we're not avoiding all risk, but we are avoiding the risk with our foundation. And we know that we're prioritizing a structure that allows our cash to grow and gives us control. And so we can manage those risks between having this stable foundation and maybe investing in things that are more risky. So another mindset that we really want to start shifting is the way that we think about taxes. Because if we go to the average financial advisor, a lot of the time they don't even look at what your income is or how your cash is flowing. And the blanket advice that you're going to get is to just max out your RSPs. Put as much cash into your RSPs today as you can, because it'll save you some taxes today. Now, when we do that, we are setting ourselves up to pay tax not on the seed, but on the growth from that seed. So if you have an apple seed, we're talking about we're going to tax the apple tree and all the apples that come off of it one day. So when we're talking about taxes, when we're using a policy, we are basically paying tax on the seed. And then when we're using the policy properly and in the way that it's designed to be used, then you're not going to see tax again on the rest of that growth or when it's paid out. Now, policy loans as well, of course, they're loans. You can access them without triggering tax, again, as long as you're using the structures that we set up in place for you. So the last money mindset that we have to kind of look at is the one about thinking long term. So when people are coming into just starting to kind of see this policy, it takes a bit to kind of wrap your head around thinking so long term into the future. And we also, when we're looking so far in the future, of course, we have to look at people that are going to be around, people that are going to pass away sometime in the future, because that's one of the only things that's guaranteed in life, right, is that we're not going to live forever. And so we need to plan ahead for when those things occur, because we're going to have, when we have these systems set up, there's going to be a windfall. There's going to be a death benefit that's paid one day. And guess what? We need somewhere to put it. So part of the planning when we're looking long term is making sure that we have somewhere to put this tax-free death benefit so that we can absorb it into our systems. What does that look like? Well, we're putting it into premium, especially on younger generations. That's when we can take a windfall from a grandparent and put policies on younger grandchildren. We can also start utilizing when we're using the policy loans. So if we have a first generation pass away, so someone who's a grandparent or even a great grandparent, they pass away, then we have the parents. Okay, so second generation, they're now probably in their 60s. They're in retirement age. They have been using policy loans, right? They've been taking policy loans out through their policy, through their years. Maybe they're supplementing their income. Now they have a hole in their policy that they can put this windfall into. That's going to translate to more death benefit that's able to pay out to their children, and it's cash, just like a line of credit that if you pay it off, you have access to it again. So we have places like the holes in our policies that we can pay off when we have a windfall. We also have policy premium that we can put on younger generations. So we really want to start looking at cascading the wealth from one generation to the next so that we have places to put it as that comes in. So what can this look like in real life? Well, let's say we have a young family and the parents both have policies on themselves. They can use their policies to fund things in their everyday life, like their vacations. They can buy their cars through their policies, pay back their policy loans, and they're going to capture those dollars over and over again through their lives. Now, if they have young kids, guess what? We're putting policies on those kids because we want the kids to start having a banking system that they can utilize through their lives as well. And so when we're putting just small amounts aside, maybe $100 a month aside for these kids, then they can start building their own banking system. The kids start learning how to use it. And that's the job of the parents, again, thinking long range. We want our kids to know how to use these systems, and we want it to be second nature for them when they're doing this, so that by the time they get to the point where they are inheriting these systems and they're now inheriting the premium that goes along with it, it's second nature. They already know that they prioritize savings first. They already know that when they get paid, they run the majority of their money through a policy first, because that's building their own system. So we're building these systems generationally and with the generations in mind as we're doing this. in my own family, we have policies on my husband, myself, our kids, and our kids now, because we set these up as they were older, so they were all about 18 when we're setting these up. The kids are working. Guess what? They're paying rent. And I say that in air quotes because they pay rent to us, and that goes into their policies. They know that there's cash sitting there inside their policies that they can use when they need it for things like when they go to buy their first car. Or my son just had a car accident and had to buy a new box for his truck bed. He was able to fund that entirely with his policy loan and entirely with money that he had put into that policy himself. That's amazing. And now he understands how he has to pay that back into his own system and why it's a good idea to do that, even though he doesn't have to. So just to wrap this up, I want you to start thinking about infinite banking as being the vehicle that we're using and your mindset being the accelerator of how you're going to use it. And so when we have these policies in place and we pair a sovereignty-driven mindset with a concrete, disciplined, infinite banking plan, you're increasing your family's financial peace and their freedom. So if you're ready to explore whether infinite banking is a great fit for you or your family, I encourage you to book a no obligation call using the link below. We'll map out your goals to a practical plan that gives you control and cash flow and generational stewardship. Now, if you found this video helpful, I encourage you to hit like and subscribe and share it with somebody else who you know values family, faith, and freedom. Let me know in the comments, what mindset shifts are you making in your life to commit to a better future for you and your family? Until next time, live free.